Welcome to From Root to Crown with Rebe, the podcast where we explore the depths of self-understanding and the mysteries of the universe. I'm Rebe Goebel, your guide on this transformative journey. In today's episode, we'll be diving into the importance of keeping things simple, hopefully offering you insights and tools to lead a more balanced life. Let's begin. Welcome back to From Root to Crown. We took a little unexpected hiatus here in the middle of season 2. As I shared in one of the prior episodes, I think it was in the episode just before this, all about intentional rest. I am really leaning into honoring my energy levels. And if I'm not feeling inspired to report a podcast, I've decided to honor that instead of forcing myself to follow through on this self-imposed schedule that I've created for myself, that I am going to trust my intuition, trust my energy, trust my body, and not force myself to record a podcast late on Sunday night, edit it, hurry up and edit it so that it's ready on Monday mornings. So I can't guarantee that from every week, every Monday from here on out, you're going to have a podcast. I was going to say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm really, like I said, leaning into trusting myself and honoring my own energy cycles. The last couple of weeks have been tough, so no podcast. But I'm inspired to record today. And I love, love, love this topic because keeping things simple is something that I try to weave into absolutely all of my life, and especially my spiritual practices. And it's what I teach first and foremost in any of my courses, whether it's meditation in moments, my crystals 101 class, or the anxiety coaching that I do. It is all about keeping things as simple as possible. So why is simplicity better? As humans, we love to make things complicated, but boiling things down to their simplest essence really does 3 things for you. First, it's going to help you get clear on your priorities. When you sift through all of the stuff that you feel like you need to do, should do, all of those things, you get really, really clear on what your priorities are. And then you can direct your energy, especially if you have limited energy, you can direct that energy to the place that it's going to have the greatest impact, as opposed to getting lost in the weeds and in busy work. I have been guilty of doing this myself, of getting sidetracked and distracted by things that are easy to do, but not necessarily necessary to do, and are nice to haves, but not hitting that core. And so my core priorities aren't getting, they aren't being achieved, and my core needs aren't necessarily being met because I haven't been laser focused on what exactly needs to happen in each part of my life. So we're going to go over how to do that here in just a minute. But there's 2 more reasons why I really want you to focus on simplicity in all parts of your life. The second reason is that it really does reduce your overall stress. Again, the simpler things are, the less that's on your plate, the more time you can spend on intentional rest, and just the fewer things bouncing around in your mind, right? We all know that on a day where we've got a million things that are on the to-do list, you feel more stressed, even if they aren't necessarily physically taxing. The mental load on your energy and your spirit can be just as draining as having a bunch of things that require physical energy. And the third reason is, especially when it comes to our spiritual practices or self-care practices, if it's simple, you will actually do it. You will actually meditate if your meditation expectation of yourself is 5 minutes. You will find fewer excuses of why you don't have 5 minutes than if you have this hour-long ritual that you feel like you need to do. And the third reason why it's so important to focus on simplicity, especially when it comes to your self-care practices and your spiritual practices, is that the simpler it is, the higher the likelihood that you're actually going to do it. If your meditation practice is so potent and effective that it only takes you 5 minutes to do it, you can do that worked in and amongst the other responsibilities on your plate. I love a good hour-long, juicy ritual or practice as much as anybody does, but I don't have time for that in my day every single day. I do have 5 minutes. I can absolutely find 5 minutes. I can find an hour to scroll Instagram. I can absolutely find 5 minutes to make sure that I'm doing breath work or meditation or something. But the simpler that you keep the practice, the higher the likelihood that you're actually going to do it, which also reduces your overall stress. So there is a lot of benefit to keeping things as simple as possible. So how do we boil things down to their simplest form? The first suggestion that I have for you on how to start this process of simplifying your life and your routines and your responsibilities is to get really clear on what your priorities are. What do you want to keep in your routine? What are the non-negotiables for you that are already a part of your practice? How do you want to feel in all the areas of your life? So I want you to take out your journal and journal on the idea of how do you want each of these sections of your life to feel? Your home, so your environment, your career, whether that is a business that you own or you work for somebody else. How do you want your career to feel? Your relationships. What do you want your relationships to look like? What are your priorities for your relationships? That can be calling a relationship in or the relationships that you already have. Your spiritual practices. What do you want those to provide to you? How do you want to feel at the end of your spiritual practices? Do you want to feel nourished? Do you want to feel more intuitive? Do you want to feel more connected to the divine energy of your practice? How do you want to feel, and what is what practice makes you feel that way when you consider your spiritual practices? And self-care. How do you want to feel? How do you want that self-care to make you feel? And again, what are your priorities there? Going through and journaling, spending 2 to 3 minutes on each of these areas and writing down just what do you want to what do you want to feel? Not what your responsibilities are, not what you think you should do in each of these areas, but when you take a couple of deep breaths as you sit down with your journal, right? Close your eyes. Just 2 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Maybe put a hand on your heart for just a second to get centered and drop from your mind space into your heart space here. And free write just for 2 or 3 minutes about how do you want your energy to feel as you think about and as you move through these different areas of your life. Once you have written down what you want and what your priorities are for each of these sections, the second thing I want you to do is to examine any should beliefs. I'm using air quotes here if you're just listening, your shoulds around each of those areas, and toss what doesn't resonate. So as you consider your home, what are the thoughts that come up around, oh, I should always have it picked up. I should never have dirty dishes in the sink. There should never be laundry. It should be perfectly decorated for every season. My self-care should include spending money that I don't have on my nails or on getting a facial or what have you. And toss anything that doesn't resonate, anything that doesn't make you feel like you wanted to feel when you were journaling on these areas. And also anything that is fear-based. Anything that is, oh, I'm going to be judged if I don't do this. I'm going to be judged if I don't keep my house a certain way, if I don't relate to source in a specific way, what have you. If it is fear-based, it is not coming from inside you. It is not coming from the highest version of yourself. It is not coming through from source. It is coming from society. It's coming from our culture. It's coming from an influencer and too much Pinterest scrolling or social media scrolling. It is coming from perhaps our family. But if it is fear-based, it is not based in any sort of message from source or your highest self. So get rid of any of those. And I also want you to really consider getting rid of any shoulds that have to do with where you should be at a certain point in your life, in your career, in your relationship. The universe and source and divine energy does not operate on our silly little human timelines. So this means that things can happen way faster than we expect them to. And it means that things can take a lot longer than we want them to. I have recently been struggling with this particular thought myself around my business and achieving some milestones that I have set out for myself, and starting to feel some embarrassment that I haven't been able to have the energy and have the connections that I wanted to have and achieve, again, these certain milestones that I'm striving for in my business. And coming to the realization that it is all happening in divine timing, and that if I trust the universe to provide, I have to trust it to provide in its own timing. And though I don't know the full reasoning why, especially with the recent transition of my crystal business from being something that I was owning to now, if you're on my email list, I have partnered with a darling local crystal shop here, and they are selling my crystals for me. So you can shop in person, which is fantastic. But it was a big transition, and it took me a while to actually make the decision and move forward on it. And now I know why, because it was supposed to be with this shop here locally. It was because I was supposed to partner with this particular shop, and they weren't ready to take this step. They didn't even exist when I started thinking that I wanted to focus more on coaching and breathwork and Reiki and the podcast and all these things in my business, moving my business from a product-based business to a service-based business. I started thinking about this almost a year ago, a little over a year ago, but it took me a year to find the right partner to help me ease through that transition. So it was a really beautiful reminder that even in the other side of my business, that timing is never what we think it should be. I'm using air quotes again around that nasty little word should. And just reminding myself and you to trust the universe's timing, that we can't always see why it is taking as long as it is. So the practice is to continually choose to trust that the timing is always working out in our favor. And even though we have some sort of preconceived notion around, again, where we should be, I should own a home by now instead of still renting. I should have received more promotions than I have, or I should be married and I'm still looking for a partner, or any of those. None of those thoughts align us to our highest self. Those are all fear-based. Those shoulds are fueling embarrassment, right? And a comparison to what we think is the right timeline without honoring that our divine timing and timeline is different than everybody else, and honoring that. So get rid of any should belief that doesn't resonate with you, that is fear-based or brings up embarrassment or shame when you consider that thought. Okay, so you've gotten clear on your priorities and you've taken a look at thoughts and expectations in each of these areas of your life that don't support you, that are fear-based, and we've scrapped those. So now we're crystal clear on what direction we want to go and what we're leaving behind. I want you to experiment with something called the minimum effective dose. I learned this concept through the first coach that I ever worked with. Her name was Taylor Gage, and she was phenomenal. She doesn't do much coaching these days, I don't think, but she was amazing to work with. And she really talked about what is this minimum effective dose. And she said, this is about taking your meds, right? So, using the acronym, right? Minimum effective dose. So if you're just going to take your meds for the day, what can you boil it down to, the smallest essence of it? And for me, with my coaching, I focused on 3 areas: physical, spiritual, and mental. So when I boiled it down to what makes me feel like I have taken care of my body in myself in that particular way. For physical, it was moving my body for 10 minutes and getting some sort of veggies in every single day, even if that was just greens powder in my protein smoothie. That counted. That was that minimum effective dose for me to say, yes, I got my veggies in without having to eat a giant bowl of salad. And 10 minutes was walking to the end of my street and back, or just being active and cleaning in my house, counting that as activity and as movement. stretching for 10 minutes. That all counted as that minimum effective dose to support my physical body, my physical self. For my spiritual, it was spending 5 minutes in meditation. And for my mental self, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was reading 2 pages for 5 minutes, 10 minutes in a book that made me smarter. So a nonfiction book of some sort. And these things added up to a 20-minute practice every day that I could spread out over the course of a day. If I only had time to read 1 page of a book, I could do that while making my smoothie, or I could do that while, going to the bathroom, whatever. I could work these things into my day, but then they would give me that satisfaction of a check mark. And I would know that I had done what I needed to every single day to support myself in these areas of my life. If I had more time, of course, I would spend more and make it something really juicy, whether that was to participate in a breathwork session or go to yoga or do something else, take a really long walk with my partner, all those things. There's a time and a place for those juicy practices, but in our day-to-day lives that are hectic and richly scheduled, boiling these practices down to what is the minimum that I can do and still feel good. So for you, maybe you're feeling like you really should go to the gym every single day and spend an hour working out. But that is starting to impact your energy and you're feeling a little bit drained by it. I want you to start dialing it back just a little bit to see what's the minimum that you can do and still support your physical health, your mental health, whatever the reasons are why you are working out every single day. So try a half an hour workout for a couple of days. See how you feel. Do you feel just as good after a half an hour workout as you do after an hour? Yeah? Great. Next week, try a 20-minute workout. The week after that, try a 10-minute workout. And it's not that you have to stay at that 10 minutes. If you decide that, no, 10 minutes isn't enough, I need 20 minutes, that's your personal minimum effective dose that you need and you need to prioritize. But if you find out that 10 minutes, you would rather have a longer workout, but 10 minutes, yeah, that's enough to get you through. On a day that's really hectic, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. for a flight, et cetera, et cetera. Knowing that on the crazy days, 10 minutes still fulfills that need is going to help you feel less stress. If the thought in your mind is, I should do an hour-long workout, you are going to feel dissatisfied or like you are failing. You aren't living up to the commitment that you've made to yourself if you're not capable of doing a full 60-minute workout. However, if we flip the script and saying, I am committing to doing the minimum amount that gives me enough benefit to feel satisfied, then you have to do 10 minutes. That is your promise to yourself, is that every day you're going to do 10 minutes. And on the days when you can, you do more. Do you see the difference in how your energy feels around 10 minutes is enough? And if I have time, I can do more, versus 60 minutes is the requirement. And it's really going to impact me because I don't really have 60 minutes to do it today, or I don't have the energy for a full 60-minute workout today. But 10 minutes, I can walk for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. That's enough. It may be enough. It may not be enough. The point is that you are doing your own experimentation around what you need in a variety of areas of your life to feel rested, to have your energy levels where it wants to be, to have your mental health where it needs to be, and your physical health where you want it to be. So play around with this idea of minimum effective dose and see where you land and what is supportive. You may be surprised at how little effort is required to feel the benefit that you're looking for. This is actually one of the first lessons that I teach within my Meditation in Moments course. We start with what I call a micro meditation. I also call it a stoplight meditation because it's so short, you can do it at a stoplight. So if your kids are losing their minds in the back seat, or you just got cut off, or you're just got out of carpool, whatever it is, or you're just stressed, you can do this at a stoplight. And it's as simple as taking 2 deep breaths in with intention and letting them go with a juicy, gusty exhale. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more, just like that. Do it with me. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And inevitably, people are surprised at how good they feel after just doing 2 deep breaths. And if you pair this with something that you already do, like stopping at a red light, if you managed to make it a habit for 3 or 4 days, if every time you were stopped at a red light, you took 2 deep centering breaths in, over time, doing this several times a day, again, 20 seconds, 30 seconds at a time, multiple times a day, multiply that over the course of a week, multiply that over the course of a month. It's cumulative. The effects stack up in regulating your nervous system, reducing your stress, and improving your mental health. The same thing is true in your physical health, your spiritual health. All of these areas are places where we can make things super, super, super simple so that we will actually do them a couple of times a day, at least once a day, every day. And the effects are cumulative. 1% added up day after day changes the course of your energy and will change the course of your life. The fourth way that I want you to bring some simplicity into your daily life and into your spiritual practices, especially, is allowing for flexibility in your daily practices. Just because you have a laundry list of 12 different things that all fill your cup and all feel really great, especially in the world of your spiritual health, knowing how to do breath work, how to meditate, knowing that journaling also feels really good, going for a walk, grounding, cord cutting, all of these things. If you tried to do all of them in a day, you'd never get out of the house. It would take you 2.5 hours. You would feel every day starting behind, just because all of these things do support your system. Doesn't mean that you need to do them all every single day. And it doesn't mean that you have to pick one and do that every single day for weeks and months on end. It can be a really beautiful practice to check in with yourself every day and just ask yourself, what do I need today? What do I need? Do I need to move my body more today? So, of the half an hour that I have, I am going to carve out 20 minutes towards taking a walk. And while I'm walking, I'm going to add in a moving meditation so that I'm hitting two things during the same period of time. And then when I get home, I am going to journal what came through on my meditation, read 2 pages in my book, make my protein smoothie, add in my greens, and boom, I've done all of my minimum effective doses that I need for the day to support my mental, spiritual, and physical bodies. Done. On another day, if my body is feeling tired and my energy is low, I may take that whole half hour and do breath work or meditate so that my focus is on what my energy and what my intuition is telling me I need to focus on that particular day. So it does not have to look the same every single day. Trust what your body is telling you. And if it's the same thing every single day, but just for a season, when that practice is no longer supporting you and you're starting to feel bored, you're starting to feel stagnant, or just not as you're not feeling like you wanted to. Remember, in step 1, we defined what your priorities are. Those can shift and change, and the practices that you do to support and create that energy, that feeling within your life is going to shift and change during the seasons of your life, the seasons of the year, and just what you need on any given day. So trust yourself. I really like to just take a moment, take those 2 deep breaths that we practiced just a minute ago, put my hand on my heart and check in with myself of what would feel really good. And sometimes I don't like the answer because sometimes it's a really heavy workout and those aren't my favorite. But I trust that that's what I need. And so I follow through with what it is that my higher self is telling me that I need for that particular day. But I allow it still to be simple as much as I can. If I have the time and I want to spend an hour, again, I'm not knocking these juicy long practices. Those are amazing. And if you have an hour every day in your schedule to do these things without sacrificing sleep, without sacrificing, in other areas of your life, because of these feelings of should and requirements that we are either putting on ourselves or other people are putting on us. Great. Enjoy that hour. I love that for you. But I would hazard a guess that most of us are multitasking constantly, are feeling stressed, and are feeling like we aren't doing enough, like we're not ever able to get ahead. So my focus on simplicity has allowed me to remove that stress from my life, and that's what I'm trying to share with you here today. All right, my last suggestion is a tough one for me, but every time I do it, I am thankful that I do, and that is declutter your physical space. If you are watching this instead of just listening, you know that I'm not a minimalist. I'm pointing to my very busy bookshelves right behind me. Uh, I'm a magpie. I like to have things around me that connect me with a specific person or an event, whether that's a vacation that I took or what have you. But when I go through and actually remove the clutter, the things that just pile up, whether it's random pieces of paper and the receipts and the the Nerf darts from my kids or what have you, or getting rid of things that I no longer use, that no longer fit, those types of things. Decluttering your physical space, this can be in and of itself a spiritual practice of tapping into how does this particular item make me feel? And not to get all Marie Kondo on you, but if it doesn't serve a purpose or make me feel good to use, then we should get rid of it. Super simple example. We bought a set of silverware early in our marriage and we needed more as our kids have gotten older, as we live closer to family and host family more. So I wasn't able to exactly duplicate the original set of silverware that we have and love. And all four of us hate using this second set of silverware. It's chunkier, it's heavier. Nobody nobody likes the forks, nobody likes the spoons. It's ridiculous. But none of like we will fight over the place settings on the table because nobody wants the bad fork. So I have committed to finding a new set of silverware within the next month. I will figure it out. I thought that this second set, this different set was going to be close enough. None of us like it. So I'm committed to going and finding different silverware and then donating the set that we don't like so that it's can benefit somebody else. So decluttering the things that you don't enjoy using, and if you can, replacing them, even if you have to thrift a replacement, what have you. This isn't about spending money. This is about getting rid of things that don't feel energetically aligned, whether it's old clothes, old housewares, or just housewares that you don't like to use, or just creating space. The universe hates a vacuum. It will rush to fill empty space. So creating space in your life and in your environment will open up opportunities for the universe to bring in more of those things that you want, more of those things that align with your priorities. So if you're trying to call in relationships or a partner, making sure that there's space in your home for them to take up space is a good start. If you're trying to bring in more peace, if you're trying to bring in, a feeling of comfort, getting rid of anything that's not comfortable will allow you to fill that space then with comfort. I hope that this was a helpful discussion around simplicity and why getting crystal clear on your priorities really helps you reduce your overall stress, and how I have gone through the different parts of my life to pare things down and keep them super simple. And I do want to name and honor the fact that this is a practice in and of itself. My life gets busy and complicated, and I have to come back to these steps routinely. It's healthy to come back once a year and take a look at what you've been doing, what has crept in, any beliefs that have crept in over the course of a year, and going through all 5 of these steps, right? We call it spring cleaning because it's time to sweep out the clutter. Whether you're doing it here in the fall, I love doing it here because it's especially at a time in the Northern Hemisphere where we are going to be inside more as the weather gets worse outside. And so really clearing out our spaces, allowing things to be simpler and slower, especially leading up to the holidays here, the simpler you can make your life and your celebrations, even the more rested and aligned you will feel as we go through the holidays and come out the other side. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of From Root to Crown with Rebe. I hope today's exploration of simplicity has offered some valuable insights and a deeper connection to your own journey and making your own choices for yourself. Remember, you are your own medicine, your own teacher. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review or a comment on Spotify or on YouTube under this episode. I look forward to continuing this journey with you in our next episode. Until then, be gentle with yourself and stay connected to the wisdom within.